Hey everyone, I'm Mitch. I'm one of the pastors here, and here's what I want you to know. Pastors tend to start their sermons off with these really sometimes meaningful and really deep introductions that are meant to really get your attention. So since we've been in White Flag, I've been okay, we're gonna find a really good one. And I sat there and I thought, and I truly have nothing. So we're going to do a poll in the room. So a little bit of crowd engagement here. So here's what we're doing. What's something you've been avoiding because it's painful? What's something you've been avoiding because it's painful? Like maybe the dentist. Anyone avoiding the dentist? They say every 6 months or so, but 3 years ago definitely fits in that window, right? Yeah, anyone else? Okay. What about calling customer service right now? This one's me. I cannot even. Anyone customer service? Because you either spend 45 minutes arguing with a robot about how you need to talk to a person, or you end up on hold and then you realize that their office closed yesterday. What about stepping on the scale after vacation, right? It truly is just the cruise buffet whispering back through time remember me, right? Maybe you're like me. Maybe you avoid fitness classes with mirrors. Anyone else feel that? Because somehow I'm still going to the right, but I've definitely turned left. No one else has that problem, just me. Got it. But maybe you're over 50 and you've been ignoring a colonoscopy appointment. I'm just being real here. Listen, they say it's life-saving. I'm going to tell you I'd rather clean the garage. And speaking of garages, who's been avoiding cleaning out their garage now that we're getting to fall? Yeah, because here's the deal. You open the door and then you have to hurdle over the Amazon boxes that your wife put in there for you to do something with. And then you got to close the door because it's like Indiana Jones, right? We all do this. We all avoid stuff that feels painful. It's human nature. So I'm going to give you the one thing that you need to know tonight. If you remember only one thing, the one line that's going to stick in your mind, whether you want it to or not. You ready? The path is through the pain. The path is through the pain. That sounds really inspirational, right? You would put that on your Instagram bio just so you can immediately forget about it. When we talk about surrender, when we talk about raising white flags, giving God the thing that we're holding back, that's where things tend to get real, because surrender, if I'm being honest, it might hurt. But the path is through the pain. So I'm just going to admit this right up front here. I avoid things. A lot. For instance, my house. We've had this weird buckling in our vinyl flooring for months. The kind that when you walk past it, you start looking at it and you're that seems kind of bad. And maybe future Mitch is going to figure out what to do with that. And spoiler alert, future Mitch never actually figured it out. He just kept becoming present Mitch. And present Mitch lacks a little bit of work ethic, apparently. And it wasn't just the floor though, right? It's a bigger thing. It was me avoiding the fact that fixing it might hurt. It might cost money. It'll cost time. Maybe I'll have to find an adult with tools. Some of you know me. But here's the thing. Avoiding the pain doesn't actually make it go away. It just sort of waits for you, like a cat. Except instead of knocking your cup off the countertops, it just knocks everything and messes up everything that it possibly can. So I found myself a few weeks ago at this moment standing in our house, staring at the floor like it had betrayed me. I had to face the pain of surrender. Surrendering my pride, my ego, my incessant need for control. But my story is light, if we're being honest, compared to my friend Johnny. See, Johnny's an addict. And when he hit bottom, he finally walked into an AA meeting. And he walked in and he said, these are his words, I promise. It was all lovely old ladies. They were all literally his grandma's best friends. The average age of this group was 65, and the average sobriety was 20 years. And he's sitting there in this meeting, and he's saying, like, I don't have what they have, but I know I want it. And he said two things stood out to him when he was sitting there. He said, one, they could pay their bills. It was huge. They were talking about how they had, the gas bill coming up, and they weren't worried about it. He was. The second thing that stood out to him is that they smelled nice. And that stood out to him because in this season of his life, Johnny just smelled like a deep fryer. Because the only jobs he could tend to keep were just in greasy kitchens, deeply unsatisfying. And that day, Johnny realizes if I want what they have, I have to do what they did, which meant facing the pain of his choices, surrendering, doing the work. And that's me, that's Johnny. I want you to hear all of those stories, but more importantly, what about all of us? Everyone in the room right now. What do we do? What do we do when life hurts? What do we do when change hurts? What do we do when surrender hurts? Because let's be honest, we are all Olympic hopefuls at avoiding pain. We ghost the dentist. We mute the credit card notifications. We pretend that colonoscopies are optional and just cost extra, right? It's like guac at Chipotle. But James, Jesus' brother, writes this thing that sounds, if we're being honest, insane to all of us who are so good at avoiding pain, doing anything we can. He says it this way: consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters. That's the yous and me's. Whenever you face trials, the rough things in life of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Pure joy. Who in their right mind says that? Like truly, who in their right mind? It's like James looks at all of the things that we have going on, the ways that we spend money, work our schedules, try to make life happen. And he says, hey, you know that stuff that you're really, really trying really hard to not have to go through? You know that. You know what would be really fun though? Like, let's just go like right at it. Nobody thinks that feels like joy. Right? And I imagine some of you are thinking like, James, Mitch, have you met my boss? Have you seen how my kids act sometimes? Have you seen my cholesterol numbers? You want me to consider the pains of my life joyfully? James, myself, not saying that pain is fun. But what James is trying to help us understand is that God can do something with it. He can use it. The joy isn't in the pain. The joy is in knowing that our pain is not wasted. And so we're going to go one layer deeper. We're going to get personal. As James would say it, what trial are you facing? What are you resisting because you know it might hurt? This whole series of messages, we've been making a list of things we might need to surrender. It's not a hypothetical list. It is a name your stuff list. The first thing is baptism. Some of us in the room, we need to surrender the control of our lives, if we're being honest, and maybe try things a different way. And I know I'm biased. I would highly recommend giving the life that Jesus is inviting us into a serious shot. Maybe it's a relationship. Who have you been trying to control? What dynamic have you been anxiously navigating? or avoiding entirely. Maybe it's a sinful habit. Deception, lying to others, yourself. Maybe it's grumbling, complaining, gossip. Maybe it's sexual in nature. Maybe it's porn. Maybe you're cheating. Maybe it's wrath. You have anger problems. You're impatient. You're not gentle. You're reckless. Maybe it's envy. You got a problem with jealousy and the wants. Maybe you're like my friend Johnny. Maybe it's an addiction. Could be alcohol, gambling, porn, substances, legal or illegal, but maybe it's a lot less sinister than that, right? Maybe it's food. Maybe it's shopping. In our house, we always said this, I'm going broke saving money, and somehow that fixed things. Maybe it's just the relentless scroll so many of us tend to just fall into. Maybe it's your pride. Specifically, your pride keeping you from something, like sharing your faith or asking for help personally, professionally. Maybe it's keeping you from apologizing for your choices, your actions, and the consequences of them. Maybe there is something that you are withholding from God. And can I say it this way? It's going to sound real blunt, and I'm sorry if it does, but maybe you need to surrender your ungenerous attitude towards your money and your time. Which one? Which one is yours? And I know that the question that comes up in me, so I'm sure it comes up in you, is like, hey, why would I change? Why should I change? Why not stay where I am? Honestly, life is just fine. Here's the thing. Holding on feels safe, but it's not. It feels like control, but really it's just keeping you exactly where you are, which is stuck. What feels like security might actually be the thing that is keeping you from freedom. Because here's the honesty. We all want transformation, right? We all want to feel like we are growing, but I only want it as long as it doesn't mess with my calendar, my wallet, or my comfort. And trust me, I get it. Surrender can and often does feel like loss, defeat, settling, giving up, and then you just throw in the pain of disrupting life as you know it. That's why James says across 2,000 years of history to early followers of Jesus, yes, but to you and to me today, the path is through the pain. Now, if you're like me, I want answers. I'm a little cynical sometimes. Why should we listen to James? Well, for starters, James was Jesus' little brother, which we're going to pause on just for 1 second. Imagine with me, hypothetically, believing your sibling was the Son of God. Imagine growing up with Jesus as your older brother. Jesus walking on water, mom and dad are so proud. And you're like, hey, I'm a B- student and I can burp the alphabet. James had family issues. You see, James didn't believe that Jesus was God, was who he said he was, while Jesus was alive. It literally took the resurrection. Imagine the humility, the pain of realizing you missed it. That your whole life, up until that point, you were wrong. And it was right in front of you. That's not just pain, if we're being honest. That's family pain, which if you're like me, tends to just hurt differently, sometimes worse. And when James finally faces the pain of that realization, surrenders everything that he is to live the life Jesus had been inviting him into his whole life, He becomes the leader, the pastor of the church, the early followers of Jesus in Jerusalem. Jerusalem's an important city, right? And you might be thinking, James got the best gig. Clearly nepotism from the top. What a cushy job. No, James wasn't just like the little brother, so he gets the best stuff. These were people who James was leading who were being literally hunted and persecuted by Rome. They were marginalized and isolated socially and culturally by the Jews, and they were starving because there was famine in the area, and it had been going on for years. And eventually, James himself was killed. He was murdered for his faith. So when James says, consider it joy, he's not putting it on a coffee mug and having a great day. He is saying, I live this. I suffer. And he's writing it to people, looking them in the eye, saying, you live this. You suffer. And I still believe it's worth it. This is what many writers call the wall. Everyone in life eventually hits the wall. It's that moment when your understanding of life and reality, God himself stops working the way that it was supposed to. When our obedience to the way that we have built our life just meets resistance. It meets disappointment. It meets pain. You see, at the wall, you and I, we have a choice to retreat back into comfort or to move through it. And when you move through it, you move into something deeper, into trust that is deeper than you knew before. Into transformation that is more whole and complete than it's ever been before, into deeper surrender and letting the things that you need to let go. And the honest part of the wall is that for many of us, we simply retreat. And it's not nefarious. It's mainly because up until you find yourself standing in front of your pain, in front of the choices of your life and the internal journey that you need to go to rectify them, life just tends to feel okay. Like it's dead in the middle. Like it's not gigantic, ecstatic, big, awesome stuff, but it doesn't feel like it's a wreck, like it's rot. It's just kind of in the middle. Which is why for many of us, the idea of surrender and facing our pain in it just feels bad. Because in some fashion, it's either a jarring halt to momentum, or it's trying to get an immobile object into motion. It feels like, I don't know, hypothetically, right? Like you've got problems with your floor and you open it up and you're gambling on if it's going to be bigger than what you were banking on, right? It's a holdup. It's a problem. It's painful, but James says, don't quit early. Don't go back. Let perseverance finish its work, because if you walk through the wall, through the pain of surrender, you discover a faith and a life that is deeper, truer, more whole, because the wall isn't the end of your life. It is not the end of your faith. It's the threshold, simply the first step through the door into a deeper one. And even modern psychology actually agrees with this. It's called post-traumatic growth. You see, people who walk through trauma often come out stronger, more grateful, more spiritually alive. Sociologists call this trend resilience, right? In fact, as many as 89% of trauma survivors from this study that was released last year who got the appropriate support that they needed, things such as counseling, medication, community engagement, and involvement, report at least one area of significant growth in their life. And this doesn't just affect the individual, it actually changes the communities that these individuals are a part of when this is taken seriously. Scripture, our life experience, science is all saying the same thing. Yes, surrender. It might hurt. There is pain you will have to face, but the path is through the pain. And I know, and I want to say this as gently as I can. Some of you are carrying pain that is so deep it feels impossible that anything good would ever come from it. You're carrying the scars of broken relationships, consequences of addictions, anger that tends to creep up and get blown out, the baggage of hurt from religious experiences. What James isn't saying is that God causes all the pain. James is not saying God instigates it. He's saying God never wastes it. What is meant for evil, God can and will use for good. So let's circle back. You guys remember my floor? The one that betrayed me, that floor? Yeah, our whole subfloor was ruined. Whole house redo. Avoiding it just made it like totally worse. And honestly, it was a wake-up moment of what I needed to surrender. You see, I became angry and sulky and domineering. I had to surrender and come to terms with my hunger for control, my need to be right, my pride. And it's been a journey of laying those things down to follow God's vision of humility and gentleness and kindness in my own life. And yes, I've seen it changing my day to day, and I've seen it changing my relationship to others, but I've seen it changing my relationship to God. And I wish that I'd faced it sooner, honestly, but it's like planting a tree, right? The best day was yesterday. Second best day is now. And if you don't understand the purpose of this story, or you've just simply written me off as a bad homeowner, what I am hinting at that I am now going to try to hit you upside the head with is that if you are like me, you have things in your life you need to open up. You need to face the pain of something that probably doesn't hang up your day to day, but what holding on to it for the sake of not dealing with discomfort and consequences and pain, what it might be doing to your life, your relationships, your faith journey in the long run might be a complete teardown later. And Johnny, y'all remember him, right? Right? Well, he faced his addiction. He faced his pain. And today, he is 21 years sober. And in facing that, he sees God use that every day because he now works with an organization that helps other people on their addiction recovery journey. And he will look you dead in the eye and he will say that it was worth every painful step. So whether your pain looks like ignoring your flooring, coming to grip with your pride, maybe giving up an addiction, avoiding it doesn't heal it. Pretending doesn't fix it. The only way forward is through the pain. And if you're wondering, like, where do I even start? Like, this is all fine, but how do I even do this? Here's what I've learned. Number one, face the pain. Face it. Don't deny it. Pain isn't just normal. James even says, whenever, not if. Don't pretend like it's not real. Or like you've just got to simply pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So when you have the hard conversation you've been avoiding, when you confess that you've been watching porn, when you actually ask for the help that you need, when you apologize for your anger, when you ask for forgiveness for your relational absence, face the pain. Pretending it's not there doesn't make it go away. But once you face it, what do? Stay the course. Hold on when you want to give up. Perseverance takes time. And ask this, what is God producing in me through this? And this is probably the hardest part. Assume the best about him. Because God isn't just trying to be mean, domineering, or punitive. He is trying to lead you and me to change. And trust me, it's going to be hard to hold on, to stay the course, but take my friend Johnny's story to heart. It's worth it. But sometimes you face the pain. You're trying to stay the course, but it feels impossible. You shift the source. And this isn't simply the moment where I'm going to tell you, like, God's going to fix it all for you. No problems. Like, rinse and repeat. Like, no, this is the moment when I say, quit relying on you. Change the source of your support. If the path through the pain is steep, impossible, going to be the end of you, don't go alone. For some of you, it's actually defining your relationship to God and actually saying, I need you and I am willing to do this your way because I've led me exactly where I've gotten. Maybe some of you need to open up to the people that are already in your life and you need to actually let them in. Maybe some of you need people. I would encourage you, find them here at a group or a serving team. But maybe you need a specialized group like AA, like Johnny needed in order to start moving through the pain. Or maybe you need medical or counseling support. What I know is that God will use any of those things to help keep you on the path through your pain because no one makes it through pain alone and you don't have to either. And so, here's where we land today. Week 3 of White Flag. God loves you just the way you are. But he loves you too much to leave you the way you are. And James said it, right? The goal isn't relief. The goal is maturity. It's to be complete, to not lack anything. So what from this list do you need to surrender? Is it baptism? Your relationship to God? Is it a relationship to someone else? A habit, an addiction, your pride, something holding you back? Maybe you've been thinking about this for the last few weeks and you've had something like in mind that is real, but like not challenging. Like honestly, maybe even just like socially acceptable. But you also have something that's been like just under the surface, trying to break through, and you keep kind of just shoving it back down because of what we've been talking about for the last 25 minutes, because it's going to be painful. This message, if that's you, is your invitation to bring that thing back here 2 weeks from now. We're calling it Decision Day. And I want you to be a part of it because the path is through the pain. Surrender might hurt, but that's where transformation happens in all of us. Because if we're being honest, the path isn't around the pain by just avoiding it. It's not over the pain as if you're about to take the high road and somehow make that better. And it's definitely not under it where if you're going to somehow like knock its legs out from under it and get your way with it. No, the path is through the pain. And that's where you'll find God waiting. And I know that it's tempting to avoid this. Just like we avoid the dentist and the garage. But ignoring it just won't make it go away. In fact, avoiding it makes it worse. So today, if you feel like I just don't want to deal with this right now, I want you to hear from me. God's invitation is not to avoid, but to surrender. And surrender is the only way through. I'm going to pray. And I'm actually going to leave an open spot in this prayer for you to fill in the blank. Would you pray with me? God, today we wave a white flag. God, I surrender. Even if it hurts, I trust you. Grow me, change me, mature me. Thank you that you love me just the way I am, but you love me too much to leave me the way that I am. God, we are walking through the pain, trusting that you will meet us there. We do it all in the power of your Son.
Well, I really hope that was helpful for integrating faith with life. Listen, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I'd love to have you join us in person. Head over to suncrest.org and plan your visit.